If you've ever thought that the story of human evolution was already written, the discovery of the Harbin skull will make you think again. Unearthed nearly a century ago in northeastern China, this skull immediately drew the attention of the scientific community for its robust shape, unusual anatomical features, and near-perfect state of preservation. This wasn't a crumbling fossil or a handful of bone fragments. It was an almost completely intact skull, offering a rare window into a past hundreds of thousands of years old. For decades, paleoanthropologists fiercely debated its origins. Some argued that it belonged to an entirely unknown form of ancient human, while others believed it was simply an unusual variation of already known species. But all of these speculations shifted dramatically when a modern research team applied advanced analytical technology and conducted detailed morphological comparisons. The results were nothing short of groundbreaking. The Harbin skull did not belong to any previously described ancient human species. Instead, it represented a completely new one, given the name Homo longi, meaning dragon man. With a skull size nearly on par with modern humans, yet more powerfully built and bearing many primitive traits, Homo longi was quickly recognized as one of the most important paleoanthropological discoveries of the 21st century. And its significance goes far beyond simply adding another name to the list of extinct human species. This find forces us to reconsider the entire human family tree, even to question who our closest relatives truly are. In 1933, as the clouds of war loomed over East Asia, the city of Harbin in China's Heilongjiang province was a place caught in political turmoil. Amid this unrest, a group of laborers was tasked with building a bridge across the Songhua River. While digging into the earth and reinforcing the foundations, one of them made an unexpected find: a nearly complete human skull, dark brown with the patina of ancient stone. This man was no scientist, but he instantly sensed the importance of what he had uncovered. At that time, however, Harbin was under threat from Japanese forces, and any archaeological treasure faced the risk of being seized. To protect the artifact from falling into the hands of the occupiers, he hid the skull deep inside an abandoned well. There it would remain, far from the gaze of both scholars and looters, for decades to come. Over the years, the secret of the skull was kept strictly within the discoverer's family. It became a treasured heirloom, safeguarded as a sacred piece of family history, even though no one truly understood its scientific value. It wasn't until 2018, nearly 85 years after its discovery, that the story entered a new chapter. The descendants of that laborer decided to hand the artifact over to researchers, opening the door for modern science to examine and analyze it for the very first time. When the skull was finally lifted from its hiding place, everyone was astonished to see that it was almost completely undamaged. Its structure remained intact, the bone surface was remarkably well preserved, and fine details were still visible after nearly a century buried in the cold earth. From the first glance, the Harbin skull made a powerful impression on scientists because of its unusual features. Two large, almost square eye sockets dominated the face, creating a gaze that seemed both deep and commanding. Above them were thick, prominent brow ridges, a feature often associated with ancient human species of robust build. Below, a broad nasal bridge opened into large nostrils, suggesting adaptation to a frigid climate where dry, icy air needed to be warmed before entering the lungs. The teeth of Homo longi were also striking, with a noticeably larger size than those of Homo sapiens, especially the molars, which played a vital role in grinding down tough or fibrous foods. This hinted that their diet may have included both hunted meat and wild plants, requiring strong chewing power. Perhaps most significant was the skull's brain capacity, estimated to be on par with that of modern humans. This indicated that Homo longi possessed the ability for complex thought and information processing, raising the possibility that they developed advanced social skills, communication, and sophisticated tool-making. This set them apart from many other ancient human species with smaller brains and more limited cognitive abilities. Yet it was precisely this mix of primitive and modern traits that made classification difficult. The Harbin skull's overall morphology did not match that of any known ancient human species. Combined with the lack of precise stratigraphic context or dating information from the time it was first found, scientists initially struggled to determine exactly where it fit in the human evolutionary tree. These lingering mysteries drove researchers to turn to more advanced analytical methods, hoping to finally answer the question, who exactly was Homo longi within the great human family? When the Harbin skull was brought into the light in 2018, the very first question scientists asked was, how long had it been lying hidden in the earth of northeastern China? To find out, the research team used uranium-series dating, a sophisticated method that measures the age of mineral deposits that had formed on the bone's surface. At the same time, they analyzed sediment particles trapped inside the skull. The dating results were a breakthrough. The Harbin skull was about 146,000 years old, placing it in the Middle Pleistocene, a period stretching from roughly 125,000 to 800,000 years ago. This was an era when Earth endured severe climate shifts, with repeated cycles of glaciation and interglacial warming, forcing ancient human populations to adapt, or disappear entirely. Based on morphological analysis and genetic comparison with other fossils, scientists determined that the skull belonged to the group hominini, encompassing all human species and our closest evolutionary relatives after our split from chimpanzees. But the most stunning finding was that it was neither Neanderthal, nor Denisovan, nor Homo erectus. It was an entirely new species, Homo longi. Its defining traits included thick brow ridges, a broad nasal cavity, a robust skeletal structure, and a cranial capacity on par with modern humans. All of these pointed to a body built to withstand the frigid, harsh climate of Ice Age northeastern Asia. Detailed measurements indicated that this was likely the skull of an adult male, about 50 years old at the time of death, a relatively advanced age for prehistoric humans, suggesting he may have lived in a community that cared for and protected one another. The location of its discovery, determined through sediment analysis and geological study, was identified as belonging to the Hangshan rock formation near the city of Harbin. This not only reinforced the dating results, but also provided crucial geographic context for this extraordinary fossil. When scientists reconstructed the family tree of all human species, the results forced researchers to reconsider nearly everything they thought they knew. Genetic and morphological analyses revealed that Homo longi was more closely related to Homo sapiens than Neanderthals were. This was a startling revelation, as for decades, scientists had regarded Neanderthals as our closest extinct relatives. This shift was not a minor adjustment in the story of human evolution. It was a sweeping reversal with far-reaching implications. According to the study, Homo sapiens and Homo longi shared a common ancestor who lived about 950,000 years ago, while Homo sapiens and Neanderthals shared an ancestor even further back, over 1 million years ago. In other words, the evolutionary branch leading to modern humans split from Homo longi more recently than it split from Neanderthals. Adjusting this separation point forces anthropologists to re-examine long-held theories about how ancient human species migrated, interacted, and replaced one another. If Homo longi truly was our closest relative, it raises the possibility that they may have played an important role in passing down genetic traits, and perhaps even shaping certain aspects of early modern human culture. The discovery also underscores the importance of northeastern Asia in the story of human evolution. Until now, most narratives about our origins have focused on Africa, widely regarded as the cradle of humanity, and on Europe, home to many Neanderthal fossils. But Homo longi proves that Asia, with its vast landscapes and diverse climates, was also a vital stage where globally significant evolutionary events unfolded. To truly understand Homo longi, we need to picture the world they once inhabited. Around 146,000 years ago, northeastern China was nothing like the bustling cities or fertile farmlands we see today. Instead, it was a vast, untamed land, heavily shaped by the climate of the Middle Pleistocene. Repeated cycles of glaciation and interglacial warming brought on long, punishing winters, with temperatures often plunging well below freezing and food sources scarce. In such harsh conditions, survival depended not only on physical strength, but also on cultural and technological adaptation. With their robust bone structure and broad nasal cavity, a feature that helped warm and humidify frigid air before it entered the lungs. Homo longi was clearly well equipped to endure the cold. But physical power was only part of the story. Given the large size of their skull, comparable to that of modern humans, scientists believe Homo longi possessed advanced cognitive abilities. This opens the possibility that they crafted and used stone or bone tools for hunting, processing food, and making clothing from animal hides to keep warm. In an environment with little natural shelter, they may have built forms of refuge, from caves to temporary wooden structures, to protect themselves from wind, frost, and predators. A large brain also suggests they may have formed small communities with complex social structures. Within these groups, members could have coordinated group hunts, shared food resources, and cared for the sick or elderly. The ability to communicate through sounds or complex gestures may have played an important role, allowing them to relay hunting locations, warn of dangers, or pass down survival knowledge to the next generation. In other words, Homo longi were not just isolated individuals struggling in an unforgiving landscape. They may have been a community that relied on one another, harnessing both physical strength and intelligence to endure the coldest winters of the Ice Age. For many, fossils are nothing more than dry, lifeless pieces of bone. But for scientists, they are vivid fragments of history. In the case of the Harbin skull, one particularly intriguing question has always stood out. What did Homo longi actually look like in life? To answer that, Brazilian anthropologist Cicero Moraes undertook an intricate facial reconstruction process, combining cutting-edge technology with classical anthropological knowledge. The first step was a full CT scan of the skull, capturing every detail of its bone structure in high resolution. These data were then meticulously compared with skull samples of Homo erectus, Homo sapiens, and chimpanzees, three groups representing different evolutionary branches, but sharing certain traits with Homo longi. This comparison allowed researchers to identify the missing portions of the skull and adjust proportions to accurately reflect the species' original morphology. When the digital model was complete, it revealed a striking face. Large, almost square eyes set beneath thick, prominent brow ridges, a broad nose, a wide mouth, and teeth significantly larger than those of modern humans. These features conveyed both ruggedness and adaptation to the harsh climate of Ice Age northeastern Asia. Because the lower jaw and many teeth were missing, the team reconstructed these parts using data from closely related ancient human species. In this process, the remaining molars of Homo longi became critical reference points, guiding the precise positioning of the bite and the overall shape of the jaw. While identifying Homo longi as an entirely new species of ancient human opened a fresh chapter in evolutionary research, it also brought a host of unanswered questions. One of the biggest mysteries is whether Homo longi ever interbred with other ancient humans, such as Neanderthals, Denisovans, or early groups of Homo sapiens. Previous research has shown that interbreeding among ancient human species was not rare. In fact, it appears to have been fairly common, leaving behind a complex, overlapping web of genetic relationships. Genetic evidence from other fossils indicates that many ancient human groups left traces in each other's DNA, contributing to the genetic map of modern humanity. If Homo longi also took part in this process, it could explain certain shared anatomical traits and adaptive abilities between them and other species. However, this remains unconfirmed due to one major obstacle. DNA from the Harbin skull has yet to be successfully extracted. According to researchers, after hundreds of thousands of years buried in a natural environment, the genetic material within the bone has degraded severely. This has caused all attempts at DNA retrieval and analysis to fail so far. Even so, rapid advances in ancient DNA sequencing technology offer hope that one day we may finally hear the genetic voice of Homo longi. If you found this story fascinating, be sure to hit like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss the next journey of discovery. There are still countless other mysteries waiting to be told, stories that could change the way we see ourselves.